is a warm welcome to our special Tree of Light ceremony, where we light the lights for the first time. And of course we do so to remember those many loved ones who will not be with us this Christmas. I'm amazed to see as many of you here tonight as we have, given the weather circumstances. Our extremities are getting colder by the minute, but on the other hand I always feel this is really quite a sort of a heartwarming occasion. I want to say a special thank you to our Mayor, Brian Burbidge, who's come along tonight to officiate at the lighting ceremony. But before we call him into action, I just want to say just a few brief thank yous. First of all, a sincere thank you to our sponsors, the local businesses who ensure that all the costs for Tree of Light are fully met, so that the donations made by those making tributes, our tribute list, all of that money will go to our assigned hospices. I also want to say thank you to the Lions and to the team of people who make these occasions possible. I can't believe the fact that this is actually our 13th year of the Tree of Light, and it seems to get stronger every year. But a lot of hard work goes on behind the scenes, and I'd like to say thank you very much to all those concerned. But most especially, I want to say a big thank you to all those who have made donations this year. Many of them, of course, are very much regulars, but we're always pleased to have new donors. It's a tremendous effort, and I'm delighted to say that not only do we remember those loved ones, but we're also able to make a really useful contribution to our hospices. And I can tell you that for the third year running, we are making in excess of £5,000, which for a local project like this I think is quite magnificent. Now Brian, without more ado, I'm going to ask you to wave your arm vigorously in the air, at which the splendid Lions will light the tree. Excellent. And now we're going to, as we always do, read the list of names as they are on the tribute board. So we have Dorothy Scott, Tony Scott, Douglas Holdaway, Betty Holdaway, Francis and Jim Knight, Edith and Frederick Smith, Francis Watkins, Bruce Duckworth, Elaine Chantry, Gladys May Firth, John Firth, Edna Firth, Jean Clayton, Tom Gassy Clayton, Bronwyn Robinson, William Bill Gray, Sheila Gray, Rose Webster, Charles Webster, Eric Redshaw, June Marie Smith, Ben Smith, Alan Archer, Elsie May Crow, Baby Liam Greenfield, Bill Fielder, Gladys Newstead, Philip Poncesi Church, Jimmy and Ruby Walker, Doreen Fiddling, Nigel Fiddling, Lindsay Marie Burgess, Olive and Jack Holmes, Gemma Louise Weaver, Kimberly Amber Tilbury, Barbara Morris, David John Myers, Guy Stockton, Roger McNamara, Olga Mann, Nana Lewin.
Andrei Staniszewski, Edna Barber, Joe Fish Hollier, Colin Henry Fisher, Robert Blackburn, Joyce Barlow, Sharon Hughes, Pam Jacklin, Carl Jacklin, John Sadler, Steve Diamond, Bill Clift, Gordon Newsham, Peggy Brammer, Fred Walker, Ivy Walker, Iris Cross, Ed Hall, Eric Gordon Whitaker, Gordon J, Rotarian Angus Carmichael, Carl Smith, William Mayer, Anita Longdon, Sylvia Morby, Colin Senior, Neville Stewart, Jenny Stewart, Michael Burton, Margaret Rose Johnson, Peter Harrison, Fred Gravel, Molly Gravel, Alex Gravel, Fen Holdaway Willett, Jane Shaw, Mr. and Mrs. R.A.P. Barker, David Courtman, Lucy Danby, Jonas Garbett, Eileen Mayer, Leslie Lawrence Toynton, Grace Georgina Rosen, Derek Arthur Rosen, Edna Mary Gowing, Michael William Hubbard, Roy Parsons.
Gladys Irene Trabea, John Franklin Shaw, Norma Shaw, Martin Leafley, Mo and Shirley Wilkinson, Claire Forward, Daniel Kirk, Vera Kirk, Randolph Cropley, Nellie Cropley, Cynthia Richardson, Graham Richardson, Carol Richardson, Leslie Carter, Phyllis Carter, and Dorothy Carter, Maureen Quimby, John and Pauline Beatty, Albert Humphrey, Cicely Humphrey, Mavis Sargent, Reg Sargent, Adrian Bimbo Shin, John Waterfall, Jean Waterfall, Lion Squadron Leader Bert Gardner, Amy Beatrice Darby, Frank Cross, Francis Belton, Harry and Edna Ely, John Bennett, Shirley Wood, John Ravenhall, Joyce Boundy, Colin Knott, Michael Wallace, George Goddard, David W. Keeling, Doris E. Keeling, Robin Frederick Martin, June Mary Martin.
Stanley Burnett, Doris Evelyn Burnett, Roy Burnett, Archie Edward Burnett, Leonard Perkins, Vera Perkins, Thomas McLaughlin, Edith McLaughlin, Tony Mowbray, Mavis Mowbray, Mick Hodson, Maisie Elvin, Roy Elvin, William Mayer, Carl Smith, Nita Longdon, Terry Day, Ron Paul, Marguerite Paul, Michael Toyne, John Toyne, Bettine Nicholson, Margaret Coggan, Elaine Chantry, Ron Clark, Bruce Bell, Peter Dowse, Gladys Martin, Cyril Skaman, Pauline Ann Halford, Harold MacMaskell, Audrey Maskell, Robin and June Martin, Fred and Liz Walters, Christine Ann Lenton, Dennis Stedman, Iris Benton, Edward Bell, Jock Bruce Gardine, Jim and Alma Upsall,
Ian Neil Clark, John Corby, Pam Corby, Jean Gibbons, Derek Oates, Wendy Oates, Ian Oates, Christopher George Spencer, Stephen Vamplew, Irene Thorpe Riley, Edwin and Jude Maltby, David Kirk, Gary Kirk, Adrian Ann Bark, Natalie Christina Bark, David Birchall, Claire Birchall, Fred, Hilda and Paul Schofield, James Birchall, Nora and Teresa Birchall, Angela Andy Kisby, Dennis Kisby, Barry Bushell, Raymond Bill Woods, Jean M. Woods, Ruby Caton, Tom Caton, Ada Close, Les Close, George Oliver, Peter James Oliver, Mary Leggett, Carol Lovely, Faye Stanley. Christine Chester, David Stewart, Jean Mitchell, Derek Taylor Lee, Audrey Lee, Ken Spencer, Karen Freeman.
Jim Huntley, Kenneth Kelsey, Donald Kelsey, Janet Kelsey, Derek Kelsey, Ralph and Emma Kelsey, Doreen and Edward Spade, Barry Waite, Mr. and Mrs. R. Towler, Noel Allen, Sylvia Watts, Cyril Watts, Graham Martin, John Lowe, Michael Asplin, Mary and James Barons, Vera Asplin, Lillian Hodgkinson, Jim Portis, Ivy Portis, David Portis, Albert Espin, Joan Espin, John Espin, Lucy Roberts,
Lynn Adkin, Chris Job, Ted and Vera Hudson, Margaret Eileen Martin, Albert Henry Martin, Emma Louise Barley, Mark Russell, Michael Burton, Jim Jones, Peggy Willis, Bernard Willis, David MacDonald, Jill Wheeler, Dorothy Mae Tucker, Dave Bell, Dorothy Mae Williamson, Carol Ann Williamson, Tony Ward, Sheila Stanton, David White, Paul White, Walter and Olive Holmes, Barry Hills, Tony Monaghan, Mary Crow, Philip Crow, John Crow.
Isabel Cunnington, Stanley Bowles, Ivy Kathleen Smith, William John Smith, Ella Esther Empson, Ralph Leyland, Patricia Leyland, Terry Bradstock, Dave Kojak Baxter, Tony Tilling, Barry Billingham, Peter Shaw, Evelyn Shaw, Cecil Maltby, Sidney Danby, Dorothy Danby, Irene Mary Woods, Kenneth Danby, Joyce Bushell, Molly Howell, David Bancroft, Graham Paul Cox, Pam and Vic Wilkinson, Jack Gosling, Jill Gosling, George W. Button, John and Terry Williams, Tony Simpson, Margaret Simpson, Kim Knight, Patricia Utley, Joan Utley, Anthony Abanovich, Emily Abanovich, Esther George Bullen, Mary Elliott, Michael Beard, John Eaton, James Bracey, Ian Cuthbert, Eileen MacLeod,
David Mackay, Derek Williams, Nigel Reed, Frank Baxter, Norman Lemon, Jade Hidson, Jeff Hidson, Rita Hidson, Alan Toon, Charles Hall, Joyce Hall, John Palin, Michael Palin, Mark Haywood, Wilfred and Winifred Stitt, Norman Stitt, Peg Pickering, Kathy Israel, Patricia Lawrence, Gordon Darley, Chris Swift, Diane Swift, and finally Dennis and Pat Byrne.
So that concludes the reading of the names, and before we leave this place, let us have a moment of silence in which we remember those whom we have remembered. We thank you for the people that they were, for our relationships to them. Thankful that we were part of their lives and they were part of our lives. So let's just have a short period of quiet to remember them. In life and in death, we remember them. Thank you very much, everybody, for coming.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.